Okay, we're going to do a little walk around on an M6 tractor. Want to point out this blue cap here, that's for your DEF fluid. That is very important to keep clean. Use good quality DEF. You need to understand the storage instructions, but DEF should be stored out of the sunlight. Should be kept at temperatures below 80 degrees if possible. And it does have a shelf life, so your storage, keep fresh DEF and keep it clean. If by chance you use a funnel to fill this DEF tank, don't use the funnel for anything else, and I recommend putting it in a Ziploc bag so that it does not get dirty. I can't stress the importance of clean DEF, and contamination there is not a warrantable failure. Has nothing to do with the walk around, but I'll point out these tractors are 540,000. The second shaft is here in the toolbox. There's procedures for changing that in your owner's manual, and always use your owner's manual. The walk around will help you from missing anything if you use this. Engine oil. Engine oil is right here. Pull your dipstick out and check it. The sun's kind of in my eyes. I can't see what I'm doing. Alright. Okay. From there we're going to raise the hood on this tractor and look underneath it. You'll have to drop your grill guard out of the way. Just pull that pin. I have removed the loader to make it easier to do this. And it's pretty easy to get the loader off. There's a pull rod here, releases the latch, and then we'll come up with that hood. You've got your coolant tank here, got your air cleaner with a dust ejector bulb that you can take heavy particles out. Those three latches there give you access to the air cleaner. You can clean your outer air cleaner, but don't use a high pressure nozzle. Inner air cleaner, I don't recommend messing with it unless you plan on changing it. If you pull it off, change it. The oil coolers, radiator, all of that are here in the front, and there is a wing nut here that you can loosen and allow you to slide that out. And there's a removable screen on this cooler. There's also a removable screen on this front cooler. You can take a blower, very good tool, just kind of blow that out, or a wand for an air gun that's made to slide in there and blow in multiple places to clean that out. The other nice thing about a blower is, and this is springtime you get a lot of birds trying to build bird nests. You can get bird nests started in this engine compartment, and bird nests around the DEF system, or the DPF system, is not good because that gets very hot and can cause a fire. So you can get in there and blow and make sure you get any buildup out of the engine compartment. Clean all your screens and your fans. We'll walk around to the other side here. Other thing I want to point out is your wheel hardware. In your operator's manual, it's going to tell you to check that at about 50 hours. We do tighten them before they're shipped, but all these wheel bolts, inner and outer, front and rear, need to be checked. They can work loose. There is, on the M6 tractors, a wrench kit that comes with it that allows you to tighten those rear wheels. I'm just going to set that on the ground. We're going to get in the cab in a little bit, and you don't want to have things under your feet. This is the water separator on the fuel system. It does have a drain and a hose where you can catch what you're draining. It does have an electronic sensor that will signal in the cab if you're getting water buildup in here, and at that point it does need to be drained. Then you will need to prime it, and it's done fairly easily with the key system. You just need to follow the procedures in the operator's manual on how to do that. I will point out there is an additional water separator and filter underneath the step here. So if you've got water up there, you're going to have water here. So you can shut this one off, remove the cup, drain it, and then follow the procedures for charging. You do use your key switch on that priming process. Your key switch also activates your glow plugs. So if you've got to do a major prime, Kubota recommends that you disconnect the glow plug heaters, and they're around here on the front of the tractor. There's a little connector. You can't see it over here, but there's a little white connector here, and it shows that in your operator's manual. And you simply unhook that, and that just keeps you from wearing out your glow plug system while you're trying to prime your tractor. Around to the back. Take a step back here. You can check your linkages and 3-point hitch, drawbar, make sure everything's in place. These are the 3 remotes. They're color coded along with the controls in the cab. This is a collector bottle that collects the oil that is lost when you plug and hook up and unhook implements, so you need to drain that occasionally. The transmission oil is filled here, and the check plug is right here. Okay, forgot one thing. That's why an owner's manual is so important. These 2 buttons here are for raising and lowering your 3-point hitch remotely. You want to make sure you're well away from your implement, but it helps in hooking up to a piece of equipment. Okay, we're going to talk about a M6 tractor, go over the information inside the cab here, different switches and controls. Operator's manual more fully explains it, and I'm going to give you the highlights. There's a storage box back here in the back that you can put that manual in to keep it handy. We'll talk about the seat first. There's a release button on this seat belt. But the seat belt doesn't do you any, or the cab structure doesn't do you any good if you don't have your seat belt on. So set that seat belt and take care of it. Now for me, I'm going to take it off so I can scoot around here a little bit. So we'll roll it back up. You also have, this is with the key on, this is an air seat. That lets it pump up or let down to adjust the operator's weight. It also has a swivel. It allows you easy access to get in and out of the tractor, and or to look over your right shoulder a little bit, and it'll lock in a position. Then you have this seat will lock in place, or it'll move back and forth for rough field operation. And of course there's a fore and aft adjustment. This is the parking brake on the tractor. It is a mechanical parking brake. Then you have, we'll start with the pedals in the floor. These are the brake pedals. You have a right and a left and a locking pin, and you want to keep those locked in any road transport type situations. Only split them for the field. This is the clutch, or what I like to call an inching pedal. This tractor has hydraulic clutch packs for your forward reverse, also a hydraulic clutch pack for your PTO. So this pedal under load, you should never ride the pedal. It's either in or it's out. It's not made to adjust your speed. If you need to adjust your speed, select a different gear. It can be used or slipped when you're trying to hook up to an implement or something like that, but it's not. If you slip it for any period of time under load, you'll damage it. You have a hydraulic shuttle. It's here on the steering column, forward and reverse. And if you're pushing heavy loads like a batwing cutter and you want to change directions, when you come to neutral, I would recommend using the brake to stop the direction of the tractor's travel before putting in reverse, so you're not putting all the load on the clutch pack. We're going to go around the rest of the controls here, left to right. So this is your rear wiper system and washer. This is your front wipers. I'll turn that key back off. You have a pad here that adjusts your PTO RPMs, display on the gate on the dash, and also some other features within this LCD dash. This button is your 4-wheel drive, either standard 4-wheel drive or auto 4-wheel drive. Auto four-wheel drive will kick out at a certain speed, kick back in when you slow down. If you apply both brakes on this tractor, it does automatically engage the four-wheel drive to help and aid in stopping the tractor. This switch is a bi-speed turn. Nice feature on a Kubota tractor. If your four-wheel drive is engaged in either mode, then you can engage the bi-speed. What that does is when you turn your steering beyond 35 degrees, it speeds the front end of the tractor up and turns you around very sharply. Great for field work, not to be used on the road or at high-speed applications. This is your front differential lock button. On the right-hand side, we have the DPF and regeneration buttons that were talked about in a previous section. This first one is your parked regeneration button. This one with the slash is your inhibit button. That's a button you don't want to use unless it's just absolutely necessary. These are your emergency flashers. And then up here on the dash, I'll turn the key on briefly. You'll have displays in this center cluster. All of those gauges, symbols, things like that are shown in your operator's manual to tell you what they mean. Right-hand side of the steering column, we have a light switch, turn signal switch combination. And then there's two levers underneath. I messed up my cameraman there. But one is for tilt, and one is to allow you to telescope the steering wheel. I'm going to leave it tilted up out of the way. Here's our loader control. There is a lock button here that allows you to lock that loader so you can't accidentally hit the control lever. Just pull it out to function. This happens to have hydraulic self-leveling, so you have a selector here that lets you turn it on or off. And I believe down on this one is self-leveling, I believe. Alright, then we have our range selector. You have 3 ranges on this tractor, and then you have a power shift of up to 8 speeds within each range, so you've got a 24-speed transmission. On the right-hand side, there is a clutch button. It does exactly the same thing that the inching pedal does in the floor. Disengages your transmission. Coming on around, we have the PTO control. All you do is push it down and twist, and that sets the PTO engaged. Push it, and it turns off automatically. At the floor, we have a differential lock for the rear. Again, the front was up on the dash, but that does your rear. We have 3 hydraulic controls on this tractor, 3 remote valves. They're color-coded with the rear. And then this is your climate control system here. Radio. There are auxiliary power outlets. This one's just like a 12-volt cigarette lighter. This one has, I believe, 1 ground plug, a 5 amp, and a 30 amp plug. And there are additional places to get power in this cab if you need it. These controls here on the side are various things. This is a engine revolution limiter. So if you turn that down, no matter how hard you push on that throttle, it's not going to go above the specified RPM you've set here with this dial. This is the constant power switch here. With that set, it will do its best to maintain your PTO or ground speed under varying load conditions within the limits of what the engine can do. This is an auto shift button. You've got an auto shift side for road work, and you've got an auto shift side for field work. And if you go into the manual, it'll tell you how to set that, but you can set it to shift up or down 2 different gears within your power shift. The DHC button has to do with how hard the transmission shifts. And when it's on, it'll shift quicker, but it's also not as comfortable a shift. You have light switches here. And then these controls, one more on the transmission. This is in addition to the DHC, this auto sensitivity. Again, adjusts the severity of the clutch pack engagement. And then here we have 3-point hitch controls. It is an electronic 3-point hitch. We have electronic draft control and some different modes, and then they work in conjunction with the 3-point raise and lower switch that we talked about. Oh, it's right here. So you can set where that 3-point's going to go to, up or down, and just push this button and it'll raise and lower it. Otherwise, you have a mechanical 3-point hitch control here. Alright, this is a engine RPM control switch that can be set to where you have a field working RPM and maybe an RPM for turning at the end, or a certain PTO speed RPM, but those are set using the dash. Again, follow the operator's manual on that. This is the throttle control. This plus and minus button is an additional place that you can shift the transmission. It does exactly the same thing that these on the shift lever do. We'll talk a little bit about cold weather starting. There is a section in the operator's manual that covers it, gives you a chart for various temperatures, but the main gist of it is if you're below 32 degrees, that's when your glow plug heater will work. Above that, you'll get no symbol on the dash of a glow plug heater. When you start the tractor in colder weather like that, it's recommended you let it idle for at 1400 RPMs or less for about 3 minutes. The colder the weather, the longer the RPM, the longer the wait time before you start operating the tractor. There's also a chart on transmission warm-up times. Again, in very cold weather, you need to let your tractor run for a period of time. The DEF tank does also heat, and in really cold weather, down in the -20s, you may actually have to start the tractor, let it run for a brief period, shut it off, and then recycle the process to get your DEF fluid working. I believe we about covered it. Thank you.